Toto Wolff is not willing to let go of Max Verstappen, and after his latest statements made towards the Dutchman, it does look like the Austrian will try to do anything in his power to try and derail the situation in Red Bull, just to convince Max that a match between him and Mercedes needs to happen. However, Horner couldn't have remained immune to these comments, and he's addressed them publicly, striking some strong words towards his colleague and telling him where his mind and words should be. But with the Brit remaining at the helm of Red Bull and with Jos Verstappen's statements still being loud and clear, could we see a scenario in which Verstappen would leave the team under these shaky circumstances? It goes without saying that one of the biggest mysteries remaining to be solved for 2025 is the second seat in Mercedes. And although Wolff has hinted recently that the team plans to give the youngster Antonelli a chance to prove himself and build momentum for the upcoming regulations, he's still keeping high hopes that the current situation in Red Bull could push Verstappen away from the team. When talking about this matter, Wolff pointed towards the fact that there is absolutely no way Verstappen will be looking at performance-wise only when it comes to choosing the team in which he'll drive in the future, saying that it is up to Mercedes to prove that they have what it takes to lure Verstappen in. Furthermore, Wolff added, "For Max, there are so many factors that play a role for a driver joining a team. Clearly, when you look at it from a regional point of view, you can see the quickest car in the hands of the quickest driver. But I don't think this is the only reason you stay where you are. I think for, let's say, simple minds, that might be the only reason you stay in a car, and that's it. But maybe there are more depths to some people who consider other factors, and I think Max has more depth in that respect." Definitely, Verstappen is one of the most committed drivers on the grid, because even if you go on to look at his outdoor activities, you'll notice that he's focused on sim racing and mastering his racecraft to perfection. Outperforming your teammate by such a large margin does not go unnoticed, even though Red Bull are at the peak of their dominance, and you could easily assume that even without Perez finishing P2 in a constant manner, it wouldn't be that important, since Verstappen could single-handedly win the Constructors' Championship if things continue in this way. Be that as it may though, Mercedes are on the move. They want the three-time world champion regardless of the price, and Wolff stated that the conditions under which Verstappen would move to Mercedes will be ones that the Dutchman will choose on his own. For example, he could bring Helmut Marko, one of the most respected individuals in Max's list, but Wolff did not hint at the performance of Red Bull as a potential factor for Verstappen to join Mercedes or to even think about leaving the team. He was talking about the intra-team struggles that, while seemingly over and done and dusted, are everything but that. With Horner remaining at the head of Red Bull's racing category, he's received even more support from the tie-backed side and was also pushed more towards the Austrian ownership as well. And this is where things get very interesting. Horner reportedly wants the CEO of Red Bull F1 seat, the one that is currently being held by Oliver Mintzlaff. And we do remember the statements from Jos Verstappen: no matter how this thing ends, until Horner remains at the helm of Red Bull, his son won't be comfortable driving in that team. And this is something that was not denied by Max Verstappen, who called for peace and wanted to get over with all of this drama as soon as possible and focus on racing. Furthermore, Wolff went on to point to the 2026 regulations as a massive factor in determining whether or not Max will make a decision to change seats. And when talking about it, he said, "I don't think anyone can sell anything to Max, Jos and Raymond, who is Max's manager. The combined understanding of motorsport, whether you sell well or not, is not going to change anything. I believe that it is a question of how they feel the future is best for them, considering a lot of factors. I think we are in a very good position for 2026. We are ambitious with the targets we set ourselves for the power unit, for the batteries and for the fuel, and I think if we're able to produce a decent chassis, we are a good value proposition, but who knows." While at this point it's still just a small grain of sand in this entire drama, for Mercedes and Wolff, it's everything they are placing their hopes on, even though it's a very unlikely scenario to happen, and the team would have to be focused on Antonelli and develop him to be the 2.0 version of the Dutchman. And according to Horner, The situation has got a bit out of control, and Wolff has much bigger issues that he needs to focus on, such as his car, stating that the problem does not lie in the driver's lineup, but in the car itself. Replying to Wolff's comments about Max and how there's an opportunity for Mercedes to poach him away from the Austrian squad, Horner said, "I don't think Toto's problems are his drivers. I think he probably has other elements that he needs to be focusing on rather than drivers that are unavailable. I am going to think carefully about what I say here. Have you spoken to Max about this? If you speak to Max, and it's not about pieces of paper at the end of the day, we know that he has a contract to the end of 2028. It's about how he feels in the team, the relationship he has in the team, and the way he is performing. I don't know how many more times Max needs to say he is staying. He said it numerous times. I'm not going to get drawn into it. I think sometimes it is just designed to create noise. We moved ahead of the number of races that Mercedes won in the modern era, so Red Bull is in great form. Why on earth would you want to leave this team? Mercedes are the third team behind their customers at the moment, so I would think Wolff's time would be better spent perhaps focusing on the team rather than the driver market." What is a very interesting statement that Horner made after this one is the contractual situation under which Russell is currently in with Mercedes. Many, including Wolff, have dubbed him the next superstar of Mercedes, but his contract expires at the end of the 2025 season. Horner believes that there could be a possibility in which Russell won't be satisfied with the performance made by his team, and after all the comments made towards Verstappen by his team boss, he could feel a bit inferior, and that would bring some huge destabilisation to the current core of Mercedes, which is only half completed as we talk. The gap that Hamilton left to be filled is a massive one, and if we're talking frankly, it seems like Mercedes are going to wait for the next big thing to arrive for them to increase their competitiveness, and that is the 2026 regulations. True, there will be upgrade packages in the upcoming races such as Miami, but the gap to Red Bull, Ferrari and McLaren is so big that no matter what the team does, it just doesn't seem to work. With a small setup change between the sprint race and the qualifying session for the main event in China, two events that were held within a couple of hours, Hamilton managed to get his car from P2 to P18, even though it was a huge lockup at the hairpin that cost him a lot of lap time. Regardless, he's no longer part of Mercedes from 2025 onwards, and their plans are now harder than ever. Which type of driver do you sign next to Russell? Wolff opened up about this situation and said that the decision is harder than ever because although they don't want to miss out on the opportunity to have the next Verstappen in Antonelli, the team is in a great need to sign a driver with experience who can help them get out of the hole they're currently in. Of course, the availability of Sainz is something that should never be overlooked because he could be the next big thing in Mercedes as well due to the fact that he's currently in his prime, but the contract that Mercedes offered him, 1 + 1 year, compared to what Sainz wants, at least 2 years guaranteed, goes to show that no matter what type of driver you'll have available, it's always Verstappen who'll have the advantage with Mercedes. With all this in mind, do you think that there is even a slight chance Verstappen will choose Mercedes over Red Bull, especially with the new regulations knocking on the door? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and if interested, check out the video that's appearing on your screen right now.